Hi there, welcome to Meagan Makes Cupcakes. As some of you literature buffs may know, we are approaching the 150th anniversary of Alice in Wonderland. And to celebrate, I've teamed up with my fellow YouTuber Bryton from Food and Literature. She has made the most adorable unbirthday cupcakes, and I'm going to leave a link to those down below, as well as a link to her channel. She has some really awesome content, and definitely check that out. We as well are also going to be making some Alice in Wonderland themed cupcakes. So stick along with me as I show you how to make them step by step. Okay, so for our first cupcake, we're going to make a ribbon rose, and we're taking some red fondant and rolling it out to around 10 inches long. And then we're going to wet the side of that with our brush and fold the edge in onto itself so that the flower has a nice thick edge when we roll it up. You're going to take some more of that water and wet the edge right next to it so that it sticks to itself when we roll it together. Now, starting at the end, I'm just pinching that edge to coil it towards itself, and that will make the bud of our rose. And then I'm just pulling and pushing the fondant, and so it kind of bulges at the edges, and that way it looks not quite so neat, which is what we're actually going for. And then just wrap the rest of the fondant around that rose. You're going to turn the rose around and pull the extra fondant from the base and set it to dry. Now, to make our watch, we are using some yellow fondant to make the outer circle and some white to make the inner circle. You want to glue that down with some water, and then to make the top of the clock, I'm using a squashed circle. I'm gluing that with some water, and then I'm taking the edge of my knife, or the back of my knife, to make some indentations to make it look more realistic. Then I'm using some black food dye mixed with alcohol to make the letters of our clock. I suggest starting with 4 numbers and then filling in the gaps, and that way you can make sure that you space it out evenly all around the clock. Now I'm going to paint a dot right in the center to kind of guide where I'm going to paint the hands of the clock. For our teapot cupcake, we're going to start out with an elongated circle, and we're just going to cut off the end. And then we're going to take that remaining larger circle, and we're going to kind of squash it down with our hands and take another little piece from the leftovers, and we're going to kind of make a rounded top on that. And I'm using my ball tool to get a more rounded effect. And then once you've done that, you just want to take the rest of your leftover fondant, and we're going to roll out a little sausage with that to create the handle. And once we know it fits, we can add a little bit of water to glue it right on. And then with the leftover fondant, I'm going to make kind of a cone shape, and all I'm going to do is put it on the palm of my hand and make it kind of thinner on one side. Then I'm using the back of my paintbrush to make a hole for the spout. And then I'm going to take my knife and cut it at an angle so that it sits nice and flush against the teapot. Now I'm using a little flower puncher, and we're going to use that as a little decal on front of our teapot, and then of course top it off with the center of the flower. So for the teacups, we're going to make a little log and cut 2 segments exactly the same size and just kind of reshape them, and so they're round. And then I'm taking the back of my paintbrush and I'm creating a hole in the middle and kind of moving that around to widen it. And then I'm taking a ball tool to widen it even farther. Then we're going to take a smaller sausage, and we're going to cut it into 2 pieces and wet it on both sides, and then make kind of a horseshoe and just press it onto the side of our cup. Now for the base of the teapot, I'm using 1 more of these cutouts, and I'm using a tiny little ball tool to make it look kind of like a doily. That's optional. And then I'm using a little bit of melted chocolate, and I am adding just enough so that it will stick to my doily here. I don't add too much, otherwise it will leak out and it will look bad. So I'm just going to put that at the back of my doily to make some room for my teacups, and I'm going to do the same thing with my teacups. For our Eat Me cupcake topper, I'm doing one more of those scalloped edge cutters, and I'm using this Martha Stewart mold to put all the letters in, and I'm pushing it in, and then I'm just taking the back of a paring knife and I am trimming the excess And I really like this because it looks nice and clean. And all you have to do is just pop them right out and you have your letters to go right on top of your cupcake topper. So I just glued those on with some water, and then we're using that same flower cutter as before, and we're making it to embellish the sides of our Eat Me topper. And I'm just using a little bit of yellow fondant to put in the center there. Now we're just going to take some white fondant and we're making a rectangle for our playing card. And I'm taking my heart cutter to make the center of the playing card. And then since I don't have any mini heart cutters, I'm taking a straw and I'm putting 2 circles together to form a heart. And we're going to put 1 on each end of the card, and then I'm using more of that black food dye to write the letter A on one side and then upside down on the other side. Now the fun part has come to frost the cupcakes, and since I really like this ruffly look, I decided to use the 2D Wilton tip. And now I'm just going to take the frosting and I'm going to kind of swirl it in a small circular motion all the way around the cupcake and then towards the center. And now we can put our toppers on. Thanks so much for tuning in, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.